The evening wind gently caressed Gabriele's face, but he couldn't chase away the restlessness that stirred in his heart. Perhaps that simple encounter would change his life forever. But before we continue, I invite you to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss future stories that we will share with you. Let's go back in history now so you can understand better. Gabriele and Rachele had known each other for years. They were bound by a sincere friendship, the kind that arises between those who have shared joys and sorrows, laughter and silences. And yet, that evening, everything seemed different. Sitting at their usual table in their favorite bar, Rachele couldn't help but notice the shadow that clouded Gabriele's smile. "What's wrong with you tonight? You seem lost in your thoughts," she asked him, trying to understand what was troubling him. Gabriel looked up, and his eyes met those of a girl sitting at the back of the room. His heart began to beat faster. "Do you see that girl over there?" he whispered, almost afraid to break the spell. "There's something about her that captures me, but I can't say what." Rachele smiled, amused and curious at the same time. "So what are you waiting for? Go talk to her," she encouraged him. Gabriele felt undecided, torn between the desire to get to know her and the fear of making a fool of himself. But curiosity won. He stood up and approached the girl with slow steps, trying to gather the necessary courage. "Excuse me, am I bothering you?" he asked, almost in a whisper. She looked up, revealing deep, intense eyes. "Not at all," she replied, with a smile that ignited something inside him. They talked for a few minutes about books, shared passions, unattainable dreams. Gabriele felt an unexpected bond, an affinity that seemed to go beyond the words exchanged. When she asked for his phone number, she did it with a naturalness that surprised him. Ilaria, that was the girl's name, gave it to him with a smile, and that simple gesture resonated in him like a promise of new discoveries. The next day, Gabriele was back at the bar, his heart filled with excitement mixed with nervousness. He had spent the night thinking about that smile, those eyes that seemed to hide an entire world. When Ilaria arrived, his heart skipped a beat. They sat down together, but something in the air had changed. The conversation, light at first, took a more serious turn. Ilaria seemed to want to tell him something important, something that was weighing on her. "Gabriele, there's something I have to tell you," she began, and her voice became lower, more intense. Time seemed to slow down as he tried to prepare himself for what he was about to hear. "Before we continue, there's something you need to know about me," he added, his tone serious and hinting at something significant. At that moment, Gabriel felt a shiver run down his spine. What could be so important that it needed to be revealed right away? Before finding out what will happen, if you liked the video, I invite you to give it a precious like and subscribe to the channel so as not to miss any of our stories. Ilaria looked him straight in the eyes and then said the words that would change everything. "I'm blind." Gabriele was speechless. For a moment, the world around him went silent, and all he could hear was the rapid beating of his heart. He didn't know what to say, what to think. He would never have imagined it. Never. She, so independent, so sure of herself, lived in a world of darkness, a reality that he had never even touched with his mind. He tried to remain calm, not to let the turmoil that agitated him inside show. But Ilaria sensed his discomfort. "Don't worry, I don't need you to treat me differently now that you know," she continued, her voice revealing an impressive inner strength. "I can do anything, even if it's different than you." Gabriel couldn't get those words out of his head. He was caught off guard, his mind struggling to adjust to this new reality. He felt a strange tension growing inside him, something he couldn't even explain to himself. Ilaria continued to speak, trying to dispel the doubts she knew were tormenting him. "What do you think, Gabriele? That it's too difficult? That you should leave? I'm not looking for pity. I don't want to be seen as someone to protect or pity." Her voice was firm, resolute. Gabriele looked at her, unable to respond. Her words hit him like punches in the stomach. He wanted to say something, anything, to make her understand that he wasn't so superficial. But the words stuck in his throat. What could he say to her? That he was terrified of not being good enough, that he didn't know if he could face the difficulties that a relationship with her would entail? Ilaria seemed to read his thoughts. "You know, we're not so different, you and I," she said with a wistful smile. "We both have our battles to fight, our limits to overcome. The difference is that mine are visible, yours are not." Gabriele was shocked. His certainties were crumbling one after another, while Ilaria's words dug deep inside him, revealing fears and insecurities he didn't even know he had. He felt small in front of that woman so strong, so determined. Suddenly, his fears seemed ridiculous, insignificant. Ilaria stood up, determined to end the meeting. "I have to go," she said, and her voice did not allow for any reply. Gabriele tried to hold her back, to convince her to stay, but he knew it was useless. Ilaria had already made her decision. Before leaving, she turned to him and said, "Remember, Gabriel, it is not what we see that matters, but how we see it. Learn to look with your heart, and you will find the way." Then, without another word, she walked away. Gabriele remained there, alone with his thoughts. His emotions were a whirlwind: admiration, confusion, pain. He knew that meeting had changed him, that he would never be the same again. And you? What would you have done in Gabriele's place? Would you have had the courage to face your fears, or would you have run away? Gabriele tried to tell her something, to convince her that it wasn't like that he really wanted to know her for who she was. But words failed him. And you? Do you think that true beauty lies in what we see or in what we can feel inside?